Okay, so... Oh. Oh, no. I mean, this is a really high-level meta build from Duddles. Oh, we're only sending one medevac out. No, we spotted it. Okay, well, I think we see the answer here. Unload behind your wall right now. Unload behind the wall, not in front of it. Oh, no. Stim's not done. It's 3 seconds from finishing. No. This is a fun one because we get to talk about the history of this specific brand of Zerg bullshit. Harks back to 2016 Pro League, guys. Duddles, I believe Duddles does stream, right? I know Duddles is definitely someone who's been around the community a bunch and does a bunch of different things. I'm not sure if Duddles still streams, but you guys can let me know in chat. But basically, Duddles clearly has watched Pro League, understands what a 2-on-1 looks like, and understands how to make it very hard for the Terran. However, his timing was actually not quite right. So you're meant to go a little bit later with that. He was doing it as if he was playing fucking Innovation or Maru. But yeah, so this timing originated from 2016 Pro League. Every Terran was doing 2-on-1. It was the build at the time. Obviously, this was Beyond's domination period in StarCraft, right? So he was, you know, big influence in the meta. I guess Maru and stuff were as well. This was a bit before Beyond actually won his championship, but 2-on-1 was popular nonetheless. And I believe it was Maru who was the first person who died to this in Pro League. And it was like a King Sejong Station game. His medevacs fly out, banelings roll in. You've got like 3 Marines at home, and all your SCVs are dead. You try to commit with your Marines on the other side of the map. The Queens and the Lings and Banes popping out at home barely defend it, and Terran's dead. So this is something where it's like, it's this real high level abusive way to take advantage of your specific opening if they get their timing just right. But in this scenario, that isn't the case. Now let's go back and look at real basic details, and that's often what it is with these cheeses, you know? So I feel like this one is a scenario where it's actually like, oh, look at that. We walled off fully before moving out with the drop, which is, shows me Fat Man's done this a lot. Fat Man knows what the fuck he's doing. He's done this. Or they've done it, he or she. Is that third barracks on the way already as well? Yeah, now, has cut a bit of unit production behind, which is usually pretty good because, you know, you get your buildings and your follow-up really well timed. But it's just a slow reaction here. Fat Man just kind of was like, oh, what? And took way too long to decide what to do. Okay, I see what's happened. So Fat Man didn't... So if we go to Fat Man's camera, Fat Man wasn't paying attention and didn't see the banelings. Just saw the Zerglings. So even though Fat Man got vision, wasn't watching, maybe didn't notice those banelings on the right-hand side of the screen. Oh, I feel like really should have. The camera was on it. Fat Man's camera was on it for quite a while. So let's assume Fat Man saw it. So anyways, drop behind the wall and just pre-spread your Marines. If we were back there, check it out. Stim just finished. We're going to massacre this attack with a spread of Marines. We're going to raise the depots on the high ground. If you want to be super safe, you would have not only unloaded on the low ground and stimmed there, you would have also grabbed all the SCVs and mules on your natural, click them in your main minerals. Once they're up the ramp, you raise that depot. And if you want, you could even say, if you're confident in your micro, you could not spread here. You could leave your Marines balled up. Stim, try to gun down as many banelings, be like nice and close to that wall with your Marines, right? And only start a step back as the banelings get right up to the depot. So obviously if you've got Marines standing here, banelings blow up there, they will kill maybe 2 of your Marines they might splash onto. The idea is just kill as much stuff as possible, and if they've still got banelings left over and enough lings, then you pick up into your medevacs, load behind your wall. You've already raised the depot, evacuated your SCVs. You can lift your command center. What are you going to lose? 2 depots to the banelings and 2 engineering bays, which haven't even started upgrades. But notice how we unloaded on the outside. We then panicked. We picked up. We then started unloading here. We then panic and pick up without ever getting the SCVs out. And we haven't been building a single unit throughout all of this. Not a single unit. TNT, thanks for the big raid there. So check it. So you don't actually have to micro your ass off against this necessarily. With the way it's hit here. It's kind of a percentage chance where if we happen to be a bit further across the map, this is just a build order loss. And I don't like to use that term because normally it doesn't apply. And whenever I mention it, I then hear people in coaching or that I'm talking to on my streams say, oh, I had this thing, it was just a build order loss. And if I watch the replay, it almost never is a build order loss. Even pro gamers, half the time they call something a build order loss. I'm like, that's not a build order loss. You're a fucking idiot. No. we all do. I do it as well. You guys will hear me do it, so call me out. When I call something a build order loss, most of the time, what I'm saying is it's a hard position, and I would have to play well to win here. It's very rarely actually just a loss. But yeah, we get wrecked there. So, obviously queuing a tank would be huge. Queuing more Marines would be huge. So, I mean, but look at this. We've got so few seconds. It's so easy to panic and just die. How do we... This isn't about what to do in this specific scenario. It's about how do you guys solve cheeses in general. We talked about it earlier, but I want to talk about it again because I really want to get this point through because this is my favorite thing about StarCraft. And when I was first learning StarCraft, it was all Artie McTosis, a little bit of Day 9, a few other people that I listened to are all really smart commentators. And I would always just... They would go on so much about how to learn this game. They talk about having a notepad next to their computer when they encounter problems, writing down things. So what we're doing here, newbie stream examples. I'm making myself a Google Drive document so you guys can look along. So this is what's going to happen. 211 is my build, right? I'll have my full build list, blah, 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 blah. I'll be like, oh, I got 15, 16 barracks, 16 gas. So we've got our build list, right? If you don't actually have your build written down, write it down, mother truckers. Really helps you remember it. You don't need to go back and look at it, but just writing it down, having it structured. When things go wrong, you can go back and adjust the details, which is awesome. So beyond that, we're going to encounter situations always. A build is always something which is flexible. It is the trunk of a tree. A trunk without any branches is just a shitty log. It's not a tree. It's not a good build. It's just a dead piece of shit. But if we can grow the correct branches off said tree, that is when it actually becomes a good playstyle. So a build is simply like a framework, and we learn to branch off it to defend certain things or to get ahead or behind versus certain things. Well, preferably not behind, but ahead versus certain things. And then we branch back into the main game path. We might be like, oh, okay, I'm going 2-on-1. It's Mass Marine. My opponent's going Colossi. I probably need to focus on building more Marauders now. You know, that's like a really basic example. But let's talk about that. So reaction lists are one of the most powerful things you can possibly do. So we can say 27 drone Bane bust hitting at 4 minutes 55 or something like that, right? That was about that, all right? So that's gonna be what we're gonna do. So what do we react with? And you wanna write down every tiny little detail, because otherwise you're not gonna remember it. Because let's remember, you're going through an incredibly high amount of adrenaline hitting you. You identify this, you have like 10 seconds to execute a tight series of actions. If you don't do them in that order, you're fucked. Now, in StarCraft terms, 10 seconds is an eternity if you know what the fuck you're doing. But the moment you let the panic set in, or the moment you have no idea what you're meant to do in that scenario, everything goes out the window, and you do exactly what we just saw in that game. Just, load the medevacs outside the wall. Pick him up. Load him behind the wall. Pick him up. Oh, fuck, all my shit's dead. And that's very common. This is very, very common. So, what are we going to write? Number 1. Okay. Unload Marines behind wall. Run all SCVs from natural to main. Queue up tank and more units. Raise depots in main. After SCVs get inside. Stim and focus fire banelings. Now, I'm in Gold League. Okay, we're gonna get rid of focus fire banelings. I'm in just stim. Stim, have medevacs above Marines. Pick up once they break through if there's unless there's not enough units. Yeah, unless you think yeah. Basically just pick up once they break through the wall. Let's assume they have a ton of shit. Obviously there's side rules. Unload behind main wall. Lift CC. Siege tank. / stim back to low ground. Send SCVs back to mining. Easy win. That's a lot of little details. That's pretty comprehensive. You're like, fuck, man, that's too detailed, pig. I'm not going to remember that. Guess what? Guess what? That's not a complete list, motherfuckers. That's not a complete list. I forgot something really important. Shout out in chat if you know what you think I forgot. So, I wrote down, you're here, you're fat man, you're going across the map for your drop, you're building some SCVs. Wait a second. I forgot to send a medevac across. Wait a second. That's a lot of Ling Bane. Now, even if those medevacs go and land behind the wall straight away, starts evacuating SCVs, starts building Marines in a tank right now, raises the depot, stims the Marines, even then something would have been forgotten. Shout it out. Come on. We've got a few suggestions in chat. Few suggestions. Swarmlord says spread units. We're not going to spread units. You didn't spread workers or make extra depots to stop block. Well, we're not spreading workers because we're evacuating the workers from the natural to the main and getting them behind the secondary wall. Bunkers, says Stalin. That's a good point. Why wouldn't we just at least try to throw down a bunker, right? Makes sense, dude. Reinforce walls and unit production, build units. You guys have a lot of good suggestions. And the thing is, there's no absolute right or wrong thing. But there is one thing I definitely forgot, and that was queue more depots. So, add more depots in main base. You're always going to lose depots when you're getting rushed. Whenever you're dealing with any cheese, if you're Zerg, you're probably going to lose some overlords. Preferably, you're a Zerg who has good habits, and their overlords are sitting at the back of their base, not out front, they're natural. But as Terran and Protoss especially, pylons are going down, depots are going down. A bunch of you guys got that one correct. But we can also add things like, oh yeah, we can add a bunker. Bunker inside main base, right? We can do it there. Don't build it on the low ground because it's never going to finish in time. Build it on the high ground. So bunker inside your main base, just as a bit of safety. Could be, okay, that's cool. I could add that if we feel safe. What else could we do? People were saying spread. Well, we were gonna stay clumped up because we're gonna try and focus our fire, and then we want to. If we're spread, we can't pick up into the medevacs, so we're following that route. We could easily do this a different way. We could say, oh, spread the Marines, or we could say, ah, shit, my medevacs are on the other side of the map, so I actually want to try and counterattack with the medevacs. I want to move them into their base while trying to defend at home. Maybe you want to do that. There's a lot of things. What's important here isn't really the details. It's about going deep on the details and analyzing them, looking at this list and saying, okay, I've written out this crazy complex list. And the thing is, are you going to remember all of these steps? Probably not. But if you remember 3 of these steps, this replay we just watched, that turns into a victory quite easily there. Now, there are, like I said, it's a very high level push. If that happened to hit 15 seconds later, or if it hit basically the time it was, but it was hidden a little bit better by Duddles, that's really, really hard because Fat Man was choosing to power. It's already a hard build to stop, but Fat Man was going double eBay into extra barracks, had not continued Marine production, was not building tanks, did not have a Liberator. If you completely cut unit production after your 2-on-1, it's a piece of calculated greed that will sometimes get you killed against a Baneling bust like this if you don't see it coming, which is quite common. So it's not the end of the world. There's always a little bit of risk in all of our builds. We shouldn't be afraid of having that. But yeah, we can hop into another replay in a moment and see how that goes. I think that's a really cool example there, though. It's something you want to do every time you deal with a difficult scenario. So it's not just, we're going to keep going back to that document today. It's not just this idea of it's a cheese. That's the most important to remember it. But it's also about any time you deal with a problem scenario, okay, how does this affect my play? What are all the little details that I need to react with? And these little reaction lists are like little branches off your build. And often what you want to do is you then want to branch back into what you were doing before, right? So you want to go, well, with this specific branch, I totally screw up my gas. So you might even have as part of that branch, okay, once we've dealt with the scenario, once we've stabilized, remember to add 1 extra gas geyser so that when we're going back towards our normal path and we're getting our extra production on and everything, going back to the main trunk of the build, everything still lines up, right? So you can start to really learn and refine these adjustments down to the extremely advanced level. People saying, can you share this document? These are just examples. I'll absolutely